Hey, what's up, dude? It's your friendly neighborhood Meatwad. The podcast you're about to enjoy is part of the LOWTREE Studios podcast network. To enjoy more podcasts like this one, be sure to check out LOWTREEstudios.com. Unless you're Sasquatch, then you, Sasquatch.
Wreck My Podcast!
Every time we watch this movie, our jaw hits the floor. Try not to croak as we talk about The Grudge.
Wreck My Podcast!
Welcome to Wreck My Podcast. This week is a special episode because anytime I get to have my wife on the episode is a special episode.
It's me. Hello.
Yeah, screw all the haters. I'm here with my guest. She still has her jaw. It's Madison.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah, buddy. And I'm never moving to Japan. I'm your host, Jordan. Also, excuse if you hear any thunder or lightning in the background.
It actually sounds like craziness outside.
Yeah,
right
we
now.
are doing a little bit of a themed episode tonight where it just so happens that right before we were about to start recording, the thunder started getting crazy. And if anyone knows about Texas thunder, it's like that rolling thunder.
Life in Texas.
Yeah, it's very loud. It's very constant. But
it's like Jordan's voice.
Hey, it's all facts right there. So we watched The Grudge, the American version. I did a little bit of research about the Ju-on Grudge, which is also the Japanese version, which is the original. And we're going to talk about kind of both of them. But we didn't watch the Japanese version. We only watched the American.
Yeah.
So and have you ever watched the Japanese one?
I've seen bits and pieces. I haven't watched it all the way through. I was too much of a baby.
I guess that was a no-dust statement knowing your parents. They probably definitely had Ju-on The Grudge.
I remember, you're probably going to ask me this question, but I'm 20. I'm about to be 29 now, and I saw the American Grudge for the first time when I was 13.
Okay.
So I think right after that, or right before that, I don't remember. I think it was right after I got scared, and then my parents were watching the Japanese one again, and I was too scared to watch the whole thing because the American one had already scared me so bad.
Yes, and the Japanese one.
So that's why I'd only seen bits and pieces of it.
Most people say the Japanese ones.
They're always scarier
because
they're always scarier.
America tries to add narrative and heroes and maybe sometimes romance into it, where Japan's just no, death, demons, spirits, people being killed. So in case you never seen, what are you looking for? What's
Sorry,
going
I was
on
just
there?
looking at the clock.
What's
We're
happening?
being really loud.
We're not being that loud. There's no one around. We don't live in an apartment complex. So before we start going on this episode here, I'm going to explain the movie just in case, you haven't seen it in a while, or you need a little bit of a refresher course. I'm going to let you know what's going on in this movie.
There's a grudge.
There's a grudge.
Oh yes, it's time for Jordan to explain the movie quickly.
Our hero Karen moves to Tokyo with her boyfriend and takes a job as a caretaker for a lady with dementia. She finds a small boy and cat locked in a closet, and then a ghostly spirit arrives. Flashback. We see this isn't the first time the spirit has messed with people. Back to current time, and Karen is understandably shaken up. Some Japanese detectives are on the case and they find the bodies of all the missing people in the attic. After Karen does some sleuthing, we learn that a rage-filled murder-suicide happened at that house, and that the rage of that death left the spirit behind to continue killing anyone who enters its premises. Karen tries to burn the house down, but it doesn't work. Our final scene is the evil spirit coming after Karen in the hospital. So essentially...
Can I just tell you what we learned from this?
Yes.
You shouldn't move in with your boyfriend across the country before you're married and committed. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. This is her punishment for relocating her life to be a caretaker in Japan for her hot boyfriend. Yeah. So this was coming to her.
This is a big moral of the story right here. So essentially it's a girl finds out there's ghosts, tries to stop ghosts, can't stop ghosts. Ghosts kill her in the end, ambiguously kill her in the end, because as we know, there's a sequel and she's in it. it was supposed to imply in the end of this movie that she's killed, because in the original, that's the same thing. I mean, the hero's name is like Rika or something like that in the Japanese version, and she actually is pretty finitely killed at the end of the movie.
Well, when you have somebody like Sarah Michelle Gellar,
it's kind of like a clause in their contract.
She's freaking Buffy, man. She can't die on the first one.
No, she's slaying vampires, and these spirits got nothing on her. So my question is, have you watched it before? Obviously, we both have.
Sorry, I jumped ahead on that one.
We both have. Yeah. But my question is, when was the last time you watched it? Was it when you were 13?
When I was 13.
So you watched it when you were young. You were scared. You never watched it again.
Tell you a story, okay? If you've listened to episodes I've been on, which, who are you? I know I'm not the favorite. It's Cam, Krager, and Joe. But if you like the podcast we do together, we did Die Monster Die.
Yes.
That was the first movie that terrified me when I was like 5 years old. It gave me nightmares.
Yes.
Until I was like 10. Okay. And then I finally like kind of got over it. I didn't watch any scary movies between like 10 and 13. And then around the time like the American Ring came out, the American Grudge, the American Dark Water, my parents were always very into, more of my dad, but like the Japanese, like the original. I had always watched like ghost stories with him that were like
Carnival
from Japan.
Souls too. Like
I'm talking about the Japan specific ones.
Okay.
Like I loved those because they were short stories. They weren't like overly scary. But around 13, I had psyched myself up that I could watch these ones, like with my friends. So I watched The Ring first.
Yes.
And I remember being scared, but I wasn't like overly terrified. When I watched The Grudge, I had another like 5-year span of not sleeping with the lights off. Like I was actually petrified of that.
Yes.
And that's when now, like when we watch movies, people be like, oh, like what horror movies do you like? I cannot do scary movies with like the dirty women, like the dirty water women, like The Ring, like The Grudge, like Mama. I don't like it. Actually terrifies me to my core.
Yeah.
So my whole adult life, I've had access to rewatching The Grudge, and I have actively avoided it because I was actually terrified that I was going to make Jordan sleep with the lights on until he was 50. But you got to do it for the podcast, right?
Yeah. What did you think though this time around? It wasn't as scary, right?
Okay, let me tell you though. The first scene, when the first suspense builds up, and the original caretaker goes up into the attic, and then you see her behind
face is,
her,
like, right there,
and then it turns around and makes the noise, and then it goes black. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like, not even because she was as scary as I remembered, but because I was like, okay, this is what it's going to be like. Like, yes, I do remember this. This is not going to be good.
Yeah.
The next, like, actually scary scene, I know we see the boy a little bit and all that stuff. You feel a little bit of the suspense. But the next, quote-unquote, scary scene is when the freaking really crappy, I don't even know if it's CGI or whatever.
Is her name or whatever.
The hair comes down, and it looks like literally Lost fog. Like, from the Lost. Black fog. And then I was like, okay, maybe this isn't going to be so bad. So throughout, there were still a few moments that scared me, like when she's on the bus and then it, like, really quickly, like, you just see her reflection and she's got, like, the dull look in her eye. That still, like, got me in the heart a little bit. But even, like, the ending big climax, the way she came down the stairs didn't scare me as much as I thought it would.
Yeah.
The ending scene where she, like, pulls up behind her back and you're like, oh, it's about to go down.
Yeah.
I feel like it still scared me, but it wasn't to the point where I feel like I was as scared.
Yeah.
But with that being said, how many nights do we go to sleep with the TV on?
Well, to be honest, we go to sleep with the TV on every night. But this time you've wanted it on.
I've told you I wanted it on,
and that's why we put HBO Max on, because that doesn't have like the "Are you still watching" feature. It just like.
But I feel like already, like when I wake up, like I try and like once I wake up in the middle of the night, it's like I do think about it. Like, but I'm like, okay, it wasn't that scary actually. Like, it's okay. And then it's more just like I'm already then awake because my first thought was something a little bit more scary that I'm like, okay, in order to just like relax my mind, I need to like put on something mindless.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah. But what did you think? Because I'm interested. I mean, you saw me watching it. I was like, had my fingers up, watching it through my hands the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. There's a huge disconnect between you and me when it comes to scary movies because it's
Absolutely.
like, I don't really get scared by most scary movies. I appreciate them for what they are, and I do like getting that feeling of like, suspense. Yeah. The creepy stuff and all that. I really enjoy. I think the difference is like violent films are more.
Tell them the part that scared you though. Sorry.
Well, okay, it didn't scare me. The part I was like, oh, that was good. Yeah. I like that. Like that was actually a creepy scene.
That's what I mean.
Was Yoko is the caretaker, and
the
original caretaker. We see her get like pulled up into the attic by the rage monster. I think her name. I mean,
honestly, I kind of like that.
Is her name?
Monster.
Oh, Kyaku. That's her name. So Kyaku's the like girl monster, and she pulls Yoko up into the attic, and then we don't really see her again for a while. Then like halfway through the movie, she shows up. You see like the back of her, like kind of like stumbling into the
like
caretaker thing, like zombie-like almost, and you're like, what's going on? Because earlier in the movie, you saw there was like a jaw, just on like a bone of a jaw. So you're like, you kind of knew that like they weren't showing you her face; they were showing you from behind or the side, and you're like, she's gonna be missing her mouth. And then when she turns around and looks at the dude, like super quick but super creepy. Like no bottom of the mouth, just tongue hanging out, and just like horrific, ghostly, zombie-looking. Perfectly done, so good, so creepy looking. The other scene that got me like, well, there were two other ones that I thought were really well done. Is when Kyaku, her face comes up through the blankets, and like when she opened, like her face was just in the blankets right there. Like I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And then the other one is when Sarah Michelle Gellar is trying to get out of the house, and like Kyaku's coming at her, and she goes to open the door, and when she opens the door, then Kyaku's head is like at the top and like falls down like next to her. It's kind of hard to explain.
Right.
Like it was,
but it's not
like,
where you're expecting it to come
No,
from.
it's not, and it doesn't move how you expect it to move, which makes you like creepier.
That's what scares you. Even when we watch it, when the thing goes slow and then goes fast really quick, like Jordan's always like, whew, like it's true. You get more scared when things, because you're really good at like.
Jump scares don't normally get me.
Yeah, because you always see things coming. Yeah. So I feel like when the monster moves differently, that's the only time you ever really get that little like spike in.
Well, I'll tell people if they want the thing that still gives me goosebumps and like gives me that feeling of like look behind me, which is funny that like the Japanese detective in this, when he watches the video, the surveillance video, after he does it, he gets that moment we all get where he's like looks behind him and like around, he kind of does this like, ooh, you know. I thought that was kind of a funny nod to like, oh, he's even creeped out and he's in the movie. That's funny.
Absolutely.
But if you really want to watch the thing that still freaks me out, and I don't think this will ever not creep me out, is the short that Mama was based off of. It's also called Mama. It's on YouTube. It's only 2.5 minutes long.
Don't watch it.
It's one long shot. There's no cuts in the whole movie or the whole short film, 2.5 minutes. But that thing, that it's done so well, creeps me out. More than the movie Mama. Mama didn't really creep me out.
No, it's not the whole movie of Mama. It's the same thing. The first like opening scene of when he takes the kids to the cabin or whatever.
Yeah. But no, if you want to watch the like one of the few things that still gives me hesitance and fear, go check out the short film Mama on YouTube. Yeah. It's Spanish, I think, so there's subtitles. But that'll get you. If it doesn't get you, then you gotta be pretty,
you're not scared of anything.
You gotta be not scared of anything.
But that's the thing. It's funny to me because like even when we watch things like It and stuff, like we're both not scared of clowns. Like there's certain things that like people like they just have that thing that terrifies them. Yes. For me, it's the dirty women. Yeah, you like I do not like it. And Mama's the same thing. Yep. Like all of those ones.
I don't even remember how Mama ends.
I don't even want to talk about it. It's too much.
So what did I think? I thought the movie was good. I thought it wasn't great. I thought that it didn't have a very linear storyline, which I get is the point but I think that they didn't commit enough to it. So the whole point of the original was a non-linear story being told, which is murder after murder after murder, and you kind of like you learn the myth at the very beginning of the movie, so you understand it's a haunted house that's filled with rage. Anyone who goes on the premises, they have to kill you because that's just how it goes. They tell you that at the beginning, and then the movie is just jump to jump to jump of like this group getting killed and these people getting killed and these people.
It's a bit excessive.
Yeah,
honestly.
This one the American version tried to give it a little bit more of a narrative, but still being non-linear. And I feel like it didn't commit either way, so it felt like it was just kind of floating in no man's land.
I have a question for you too.
Yeah.
Because you even brought it up, which is what I remember, that every person that's like in the house,
yes,
like dies.
Yeah. It's like Final Destination. You can't escape it.
Yeah. Why did the old woman who was living in the house not get killed for so long?
Because she had dementia. I think what they were supposedly trying to like get at is that because of her mental disability, it made it harder for the ghosts to like actually get their hands on her because she wasn't as tied to like the physical realm as most people are.
Interesting. I was so curious. I'm like, this doesn't really 100% make sense to me, because at one point the lady says, I just want her to leave me alone, which it was not like I was just more so curious, like what, like I wish they maybe explained that a little bit more, because I was trying to think, even like you and I talk about this a lot, we're not really great at like the symbolism of it all, like we have to like read up on it and try and figure out. So I was trying to be like deep, and I was like, is it because like the ghost can relate? Like she felt trapped in this relationship in this house. Like she was so like tied to like her issue. So then like she sees that she's just like tied to this house. And so like she's still gonna like torment her because obviously she's a freaking rage monster. Yeah. But at the same time, like part of her is still her. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly, so I have this problem all the time too of wanting explanation but also not wanting explanation.
Yeah.
I know that like Stephen King always said the scariest thing you can do is not explain things. Like
Correct.
the unknown is scarier than anything else, which
Correct.
is why like over explaining a monster or a backstory in
lose
horror,
it.
you lose part of it. And sometimes it's like, yeah, I'd love to know the explanation, but the fact of the matter is like maybe there is no explanation, and that's the scary part of it. It's like some people die quicker, some people die slower, but they all die.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the scary part. You don't know. Like we all know we're gonna die one day, but we don't know when, and that's the scary part of it. The unknown, you know? So
well, and I was thinking too, because I'm like, so like obviously the first caretaker goes like straight up into the attic. Okay, like done, she's dead. Like we get that. You like encroached on her space. Like, and then I was like, well, maybe like she's downstairs. Like they even mentioned that to the family living in the house that buys the house. Like, oh, she doesn't even have to go up the stairs. Like she can stay downstairs. So then I was like, okay, like maybe the ghost is only tormenting people that come up on her level. But then she ends up leaving and she's like out and about the town killing people. So that's why I was like, I get to your point. Yeah, it's like it doesn't need an explanation. I was just curious because I'm like, they never really talk about that.
I don't think they give a good explanation for that. It's just supposed to be scary.
I was just wondering what your insight was.
My thought was that because she had like some type of mental disability like that,
right,
and she was kind of closer to the afterlife than other people, that maybe it was more of a gray area where she was like, I'll get to her later because she's already kind of moving in that direction kind of thing. Or like maybe the fact that like she to like people have to see her to actually get killed or something, and like the dementia made her keep forgetting or something.
Right.
I don't know. You know, it could be a multitude of reasons. I also like how all of our main characters in this are like white people living in Japan. I'm like, oh, wow, we really found all the white people moving to Japan. You know. So did this wreck your? I want to say, did it wreck your eyes?
Yeah.
What do you think? Were you happy to rewatch it, or was it kind of like, okay?
I mean, I was happy to rewatch it because, I mean, to be fair, 2005, it's over 15 years ago. Okay, we're talking about this like it needs to be up to date with horror movies now. Like 2005 seems like not that long ago. It was 15 years ago.
We've made a lot of strides in the horror genre since then.
So that's why I'm like, do I like it for what it is, like how I like the first Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire? I like it for what it is. Do I feel like it's as like quote unquote good as I remember? No, it's not as good.
I realized I had never seen this movie. I thought I had seen The Grudge, and then when we were watching it, I'm like, yep, I've never seen this movie. So this was my first time watching it. I thought
you just heard me talk about it.
Yeah, and honestly, I could have sworn I had seen this movie at some point. I have no recollection of any scenes from it, so I'm kind of for sure that I did not, because normally I would forget, but at least I'd remember like a scene like here or there, something, you know. Yeah. But no, I don't think I ever saw this. I thought it was good. Like I said, I have a little bit of trouble with the narrative of it. I feel like they were trying too hard to retrofit it for Americans. And it just didn't land very well.
I have a question for you too. Like, do you feel like it would have been beneficial if the boy was like scarier?
So here's the thing. One of the biggest complaints I've seen when I was reading online about this is that they thought the boy looked hokey, and like him meowing and stuff because of the cat was dumb. I actually thought the boy had some very creepy scenes. Yeah. I thought the fact that there's just a creepy boy walking around the house at some point with a cat was creepy. Also, that one scene where oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name right now?
The dad from Casper?
Yeah. Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
Bill Pullman, like when he was going to take care of the kid, and then like he looks out the window and you see like out of focus in the background the kid like turn and look at him and open his mouth and like this weird noise is coming out. I honestly thought the kid was creepy.
Okay.
I did not think that. Maybe one scene there was like a hokey scene with the kid. Everything else I thought was done very well.
Well, it's interesting to me because I was thinking, I'm like, okay, the cat thing I kind of get, because sometimes you want it to be like build suspense and then it's like just the cat, and then you're like, okay, like, whew, like
it's a ghost
shoots me
too,
out,
which is
like
kind of fun.
Yeah, and like you can, I can kind of see that part. And then I was thinking, I'm like, well, the boy, like watching it now, I'm like, he just is kind of around. Like he's not ever really like wreaking havoc except for making the trash around everywhere. And like,
but he's not the one filled with rage. So
I totally understand that. I'm just saying, like, I was like, I feel like they could have done something a little bit more to make him like an intriguing person. Like I remember when I was a kid being like, okay, like when you see like The Orphan or The Omen, not The Orphan, The Omen. Like the kid is creepy as all hell. Like. And he's not like a monster. So I was like, I was kind of like thinking now, you know what I mean? Though, like, he's not like bad to look at. Like, so then I was thinking that, and then I'm like, do I wish that there was some kind of embodiment of the dad? Like, I feel like actually watching now, I felt like she couldn't hold her own, which now I'm going to die in my sleep because I just freaking talked bad about the rage monster.
Wait, you mean she couldn't hold her own, like
as a main villain character? Like I kind of like when I was telling Jordan when we were kind of like talking about this after we watched the movie, is I felt like all of a sudden it was like she was everywhere. She was just like killing the detective, and she was going to kill the sister, and then she was going to kill the family, and she was going to do all this stuff. And I'm like, I kind of wish they were like a unit, like they were all pained by the bad incident.
Yeah.
Like I kind of wish they were a group now that I'm older, and like had each their own thing, so it didn't just rely on her.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
Yes, but it also kind of defeats the purpose of it, because so like the whole point is like rage begets rage, right? Like so the story is that there's the husband, there's the wife, there's the boy, there's the cat. The wife, Kayako, she is in love with another guy who's Bill Pullman's character. The husband finds out, reads her journal, and in a fit of his rage, beats her up but doesn't kill her. And while he's still angry, he ends up murdering the cat and murdering the son in front of her. And then he kills her.
Right, which is absolutely horrific.
Well, that rage murder in real life then stained her spirit with rage.
Absolutely.
So now in the afterlife, she's rage-filled. The kid is not, because he was just like an innocent bystander. He can't grasp what's going on. He was just murdered. So he's just kind of like, I'm stuck here too, because the gravity of this evil spirit is keeping me here.
I get that.
The reason the husband isn't there is because the moment that she turns to a spirit, she kills him in rage.
Yeah,
but
then he should be a part of it too.
But he doesn't get the satisfaction of getting to stay in the afterlife. He gets engulfed.
I don't feel like this is a satisfaction that she's had. I feel like she's being punished.
That's true, but his punishment is like a non-existence thing.
Yeah, I just feel like I think now as I'm older that I didn't think she was a strong enough Like, we needed a little something extra.
Well, it would be crazy if it was like, the stranger's ghost version where like each character kind of had their own.
And it doesn't need to be like, they're as a unit and like doing like Avenger style. We're all gonna like, strategically attack like whoever comes into our home. I don't even know how exactly they would go about it.
It would be,
but I feel like if I was the kid, how the kid died, even if you're an innocent bystander, you're gonna be upset in the moment when you're realizing that your dad is holding your head underwater. Like, there's going to be some rage there.
Yeah.
Also, cats are rageful all the time.
That's
so
true.
like,
that cat,
come on,
that cat's the real killer here. So let's talk about some things we noticed, because we've been kind of talking about things we noticed, but let's continue on some of the ones I wrote down here. We get like, before the movie even starts, we get some just like death scenes. We get Bill Pullman jumping off the balcony
right
and then
away.
We find out later like kind of why that is and everything. Yoko getting killed by the creature. So we have these two opening deaths. There's normally in a horror movie there's like an opening stinger. This one had two, which was kind of interesting.
Back to back too.
Also, this movie was pretty violent for a PG-13 movie. Bill Pullman, they show you after he lands, his face just like splattered in the concrete. You see like a girl without a jaw. You see her jawbone on, like, there's some pretty, and they actually had to cut things out of this to not be R-rated.
Oh,
so it was worse than this, but I'm like, this is towing the line, if you ask me.
To
R-rating.
Especially for 2005.
Exactly. So I was like, this is pretty good. And I kind of like that though, that like, all right, this isn't just a regular PG-13 movie. Like, there's some oomph behind this one, which was nice. You brought up this at the beginning when Yoko gets killed, how you said she goes up into the attic. Why do people always go towards the weird sounds?
Well, I'm like, it's funny because it's the what's the word? Like, the stereotype. The classic, she has to go toward the sound. But I'm like, I kind of wish they would make more movies not feeding into the stereotype. Granted, this is 15 years ago, whatever. But I'm like, there's got to be other ways we can create suspense than these people doing like completely unrelatable things.
Like, no one in their right mind would be in a creepy situation, hear a creepy sound and go, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take like a tiny lighter and go up in this small space where I can't defend myself at all.
Yeah.
I would be like, see ya. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Like, I would not be sticking around playing Sherlock Holmes on this thing. Like,
no.
It's so
Also,
dumb.
even in this movie, like when the boyfriend walks into the house at the end, he tries to turn on the light, it doesn't work, and I'm like,
come on, bro,
it's just way too much at this point,
way too stereotypical, for sure. One thing I didn't like, and they only really bring this up like once in the movie, that Kyaku has the power, this evil spirit has the power to impersonate people's voices and then also like show up. So like the sister, when she dies, her brother calls her and she talks to him, and then also she looks through the peephole and sees him there. But then when she opens the door, he's gone because it was her. And I'm like, wait, when did she get the power to like impersonate people?
Yeah,
like,
I did not remember that at all.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of like a little too far. Like, I get it in like It and stuff like that. Like, this is like,
he's a shapeshifter.
I get it that it's supposed to be supernatural, but like there's sometimes you have to put like laws in the universe you've created.
Yeah,
it can't just be willy-nilly all the time, So I didn't really like that.
I didn't either. It was a little hokey.
That I was like, we could have done a little bit better on this,
I agree.
So I didn't really like that part. Karen came face to face with a spirit, so she's unsure about it. Wait, why did I write that? I literally wrote, Karen came face to face with a spirit, and she's so... Oh!
What are you saying?
Okay, I thought this was a weird moment in the movie, and I guess how I wrote this didn't click until right now. So there's a scene at the beginning when the spirit you were talking about, the kind of hokey, where like the lost
the hair
ghost monster or lost smoke monster comes down and kills the dementia lady, and Karen is like face to face with it. And then the next scene we see with Karen is like, she's kind of in a catatonic state. She's freaked out.
She's very frazzled.
But then also, like, she's just like a little bit later, like, I'm going to go keep checking this thing out. I'm like, you literally came face to face with a spirit. Something that most people don't even believe exists, let alone have never seen that
But
much.
I think that's why, because they have a scene. So obviously she comes face to face with the demon. Then she's in the hospital and she's like, I don't remember exactly what she says. Yeah. But she's talking to the boyfriend. He's like, yeah, like, don't worry, like the woman died in her sleep. And then she's like, wait, like, is that what they're saying happened? Like, she's like kind of like very confused, because I feel like in her head she's like, no, like there should, like, it should be showing that she was like killed by a monster, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like in her head there's like, she thinks she knows what she saw, but then she's hearing all this other information that's like, I didn't, this is not real. So she's like investigating herself. Which again, no, I don't think people are gonna naturally do that. No. She doesn't strike me as that type or character anyway, but I think that's why she was like trying to get to the bottom of it, and then why she's like trying to follow up with the detective. And it's not until then when the detective tells her that she's like, okay, like,
I was right.
I'm not crazy. Yeah.
I love how Google in movies always works so much more effectively, like right off the bat, than it does in real life, where it's like, I'm going to search death and Japan and like pop up perfectly what I need.
Oh, it's too funny.
And not need to rifle through.
To be granted, maybe there wasn't thousands of pages of search results at the time, but
I don't know.
I know what you mean.
That's so funny. So I thought, as much as I didn't really like how they tried to shift the narrative for the American audience, I did think they did a really good job on, because this movie jumps around a lot in the timeline.
It does a lot.
And they don't give you like a 14 days ago or like currently or whatever. They never tell you where, but you can follow it pretty easily. Like, I feel like they do a good job of giving you visual cues, so you know, like, okay, this is before this happened. Okay, this is after this happened. Okay, this is the prime storyline we're doing right now.
I think it's interesting you say that, because you're like, okay, clearly we're not talking about like, you know, a 15-year gap here. Like, we're seeing the storylines kind of seem like they're probably like even within a month, I was gonna say at most 6 months, because he says like, oh, like the original incident happened 3 years ago. So you're like, okay, we're talking about not a very long storyline. And I think the realtor says something like, nobody's lived here for 2 years or something. So I'm like, okay, you can kind of make the storyline in your head if you're really thinking about it. But you're right, they really aren't planning on guiding you along. But the fact that it's like all of a sudden all these people are dying in this house, I'm like, I feel like it has to have happened in like a week.
I think so too, because they found the dead bodies of the tenants in the attic, remember?
Yeah, like, and that had to be...
And they weren't that decomposed, so I feel like it was happening within like...
So that's why I was like, I feel like it's pretty back to back. Like, maybe they were only alive for like 2 days in the house. When the first couple died. And then maybe like another couple days it was Yoko, and then it was like... the dementia, and then like, you know what I mean? I think
it was pretty compact.
So how do you think, I'm interested, sorry, I don't know if you're going to go over this, but how do you think Sarah Michelle Gellar escaped her twice then?
You mean the first time when it killed Dementia Lady?
Yeah.
And then second time
at the end of this movie. End.
Okay, so I think that it actually does. The first time, I don't know how she escaped.
I'm curious.
That's a little weird.
That.
I don't have a good...
She could only kill one person at a time?
Maybe. I don't have a good answer for that one. The second one, I feel like it is actually afraid of fire, because I think that if the house burns down, the spirit no longer has a place to dwell. So I think it's the actual house, not necessarily like the land that it's tied to. Okay. So I think that it was frightened from the fire, so it didn't want to go after her because it was trying to protect itself.
Okay.
And that's why she escaped that time. And then later on, she was like, okay, now that you're in the hospital, I'm coming after you.
I see.
I don't know the first time. Maybe like, oh, this is the first I'm seeing of this girl, so I'm not going to kill her right away. Because like, Yoko had been there a while. The family had lived there a while. Maybe it's a thing where it's like, okay, you have to be there for, like, she's not just going to kill you the first time she sees you.
Right.
Kind of thing. Like,
right.
I honestly... I have no idea, but that's the best I could come up with. Yeah. Again, the whole thing where it's like, you don't explain it, it's a little bit creepier, stuff like that.
Right.
But speaking of that, everyone who goes onto the premises of this house dies. I started thinking back on the movie, how many people then did we not see die? Because there's the realtor, there's all those crime scene investigators that show up, like they're all gonna die. And then I'm also like, what about like an Uber Eats guy? Like, what if like a delivery dude shows up and like steps on the porch?
Was
like,
Uber
is he
Eats
die?
a thing in 2005?
Okay, like Domino's or something, like, you know, like here's your pizza and now I'm dead.
Yep.
I was like, man, that would suck to have that happen. Also, they never really showed who taped the boy in the closet. Was it Bill Pullman? that what they were supposed to say?
I think they were trying to imply that like they were hearing things in the attic and stuff, so they had like taped the door shut. Like they
because the boy's a spirit anyway, so like
they were trying to like keep it locked away.
Is that all it takes? Just like some duct tape?
I don't think so. I think that like again, they weren't there for very long. I feel like they were hearing stuff. They put it there.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Band-Aid solution, not knowing they were going to die.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting about this one, and is what's very Japanese compared to American monsters, is you ask the question, but why does this spirit need to kill, right? You have Freddy Krueger. He's going after the kids of the people that burned him alive. That's who he's going after.
Yeah.
You have Mrs. Voorhees. She's mad at the camp counselors for not watching Jason, and she's trying to get back at them. But I kind of like this one is just like a rage-filled monster that lashes out at anyone who's in its proximity.
Right.
Rather than having like a reason where when you get to the end, they're like, oh, the Halloween, Mike Myers is going after what ends up being his sister. Like, there's not a real rhyme or reason for it. It's just like, no, you're near me, I'm gonna kill you kind of thing.
Yeah, especially since the whole thing is like these people are unknowingly coming on their property, not knowing what's gonna happen.
There's no like nefarious reason. It's not like, oh, these kids are coming up to like spray paint the house or something, so the spirit's gonna kill them or whatever.
Correct.
So they're just trying to live their life. So I thought that was interesting. So let's talk about the movie when it came out, who's in it, all that kind of stuff. So it was released October 22nd, 2004. So just in time for that Halloween season, $10 million budget.
Okay.
Pretty small for a movie, but it makes sense. There wasn't a lot going on in this movie.
Well, like $5 million was for Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Yeah, no, I don't even think at that time she was making that kind of money. But it grossed $187 million worldwide.
I believe
this was a huge success. Here's what I was shocked about is the Rotten Tomato scores. 40% critic, 46% audience.
That's awful, right? You said
that is awful. Let me tell you. So I don't know if it's come out yet episode wise, but I have recorded our Mystery Men episode. Mystery Men, the movie with Ben Stiller. That had a 61% critic score. That movie sucked giant cojones.
Okay, but this is the question. The people that are going in and like putting in their score and stuff, do they think fart humor is like the funniest thing ever? Because I don't understand how anybody can watch Mystery Men.
Well, these are supposed to be critics. Like,
no,
these are legitimate critics.
But I'm saying, like, are they that type?
I guess.
Is the same critics for every single movie?
It's a lot of the same ones. They're people that
seems like it's kind of doomed from the start.
Yeah, it's people that write reviews for like newspapers, like Robert Ear and Robert. What are those two guys that were like big back then and stuff?
I have no idea.
Yeah. But I was just shocked. I was like, I get that this movie wasn't like stellar, but it was definitely better than Mystery Men. Like, this should have been up in the 60s, in my opinion, in the Rotten Tomatoes score. I don't get how it's down in the 40s at all. I thought it was interesting that it was filmed. Part of it was, or the house was filmed at Toho Studios in Tokyo.
Oh,
Toho, creators of Godzilla.
There you go.
Very cool, very cool. I like that. So the director's name is Takashi Shimizu.
Can you get her to stop?
Hey, Bailey.
She's like doing something weird on the carpet.
Stop licking the carpet, Bailey. So the director's name is Takashi Shimizu. He also directed the Japanese Grudge.
Oh,
so
interesting.
It's the same guy who directed both of them. He also directed the Japanese Grudge 2 and the American Grudge 2, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
So Takashi had a whole series of horror films called Ju-On.
Yeah.
And then this was called Ju-On the Grudge.
Mm-hmm. So
it was pretty much just like different. Now, if I remember correctly, Ju-On is just the name for like a spirit. So like there's different types of spirits. So like each of those movies hit on like a different kind. This was like the rage spirit, right? Like it's kind of like what we would have like fairy tale-ish kind of stuff. Was what he was kind of hitting on. So that's kind of cool that they had the same guy, which I really did like that.
Yeah.
That it wasn't like, oh, here, give it to some American director that's going to like totally mess with it and everything. It stuck pretty close to the source material. It was written, though, for America by Steven Susko. He doesn't have a lot of writing credits. The biggest thing he has beside this is Unfriended Dark Web. That movie that came out like 3 or 4 years ago that was the sequel to Unfriended. It was the one with oh my gosh, the guy who plays Zulu or whatever his name is. I'm drawing
no
a blank.
idea.
Harold and Kumar. It's Harold. John Cho, is that his name?
I have no idea.
I think so. It's that guy. It's Harold from Harold and Kumar. He's a really big actor now. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but essentially he was in Unfriended Dark Web. So this guy doesn't have a lot of credit to his writing ability, which I guess he didn't need to. The story was kind of written for him. It was just adapting it for the American audience. So Sarah Michelle Gellar plays our main character, Karen. Scooby-Doo, Buffy, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yep.
Everyone knows who Sarah Michelle Gellar is. Is she still married to Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Yep.
There you go. William Mapother, he played Matthew. He was the guy where we were like, I know who he is. I can't peg where he's from. Ethan from Lost. He plays the creepy dude from Lost. He was a character actor on Mad Men, on Blacklist, on Burn Notice. This guy is on like every show anyone's ever watched for like one episode. Is essentially that's why you like recognize him. It's like he never sticks around that long, but he's like always on shows people watch.
Sure.
Which is kind of cool. Bill Pullman plays Peter. He's from Independence Day. He's from Spaceballs. Casper, like you said. We have Ted Raimi. That's right. The guy at the care center is Sam Raimi's brother, which makes sense because Sam Raimi was also a producer on this film. So, they were kind of dipping their toes into the Japanese horror side of things. And if you don't know who Sam Raimi is, Evil Dead. That's all you really need to know. And Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Can't forget about those. Finally, Kayako is played by a girl named Takako Fuji, who played her in the original as well. Same girl.
Oh.
Yeah, so another crossover there from
That's
the
nice.
Japanese to the American version. I did like that.
Interesting.
In fact, I'm almost positive the family is all the same actors.
I mean, that would make sense.
Yeah, they're all the same from the original movie as well. So let's talk about Ju-on the Grudge, the Japanese version, and the Grudge, American version, the differences between them, because I looked up to see what the differences were and all that. So the first thing was the original Japanese version was even more non-linear. Like I said, it was pretty much just like ghost story, ghost story, ghost story. So it was like these people killed, these people killed, these people killed, because the opening scene is explaining the murder-suicide. So you understand the premise of the ghost from the get-go of the Japanese version. So now it's just like, let's watch him kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it was. The basic plot and logic, though, are essentially the same. There's the detective that shows up, this and that. So a lot of the points hit more. However, in the Japanese version, there's a lot more kills. Like you brought up the schoolgirls.
Yes.
And the schoolgirls kind of take the place of the caretaker because they end up being like zombie schoolgirls. But like there's a lot more people that end up dying. Like even the detective's friend is killed in the Japanese version and stuff like that. So like there's a lot more people that die in that version. Both of them have their heroine at the end die. Like I said, Sarah Michelle Gellar, it was supposed to be implied she was being killed in that moment. And in the original, they actually show the protagonist being pulled into the darkness by the ghost's hair. So there's that.
So she gone.
And that's pretty much all the differences. Like they're very similar, just the Japanese version is a lot more Japanese. Yeah, it's a lot more Japanese. And that's about it. So let's talk about some fun facts of this movie.
Okay.
What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh yeah. What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh yeah.
So, unlike the other Japanese horror remakes like The Ring, Dark Water, Pulse, and One Missed Call, I was actually shocked One Missed Call was a Japanese remake. I had no idea that was Japanese originally. This one, though, was the only film out of all the others that actually remained in Japan instead of moving the story to America.
Right.
Which was nice that they did that. It made sense in the context of the story.
I mean, I definitely think The Ring wouldn't have made sense if they tried to make it work in the American version in Japan. Like they had to move that one.
Like this one
here.
didn't have a choice because the whole point is the ghost is haunting a certain house.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense for them to be in America.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense at all. Now, I've never seen Pulse or One Missed Call.
Yeah.
I thought you did say that Dark Water they were in Japan,
too.
but I guess
I was wrong.
I guess not. So I don't know. We never ended up watching it, huh?
I don't like the American version. I only like the Japanese version.
Not so good, huh? Well, all right. So the character of Toshio, which is the little boy, is almost always found with his cat.
Yes.
In real life, the boy who plays Toshio, his name is Yuya Ozeki, is terrified of cats. So that's kind of a sucky role for you to be in if you're like, you hate cats.
I mean, he's never holding the cat.
No.
But the cat is always around.
Cat's always around, though. Just like, what's the cat's name in Pet Sematary? Freaky McFreakerson.
Oh, I forget. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's definitely not like Tinkerbell.
No.
It's some like creepy name, I feel like. Churchill.
Yeah, like Winston Churchill.
Yeah, that's what it is. All right, so the snapping and popping sounds that accompany the appearance of Kayako were made with a hair comb. So all those like croaks and snaps and stuff were made with a hair comb.
Interesting.
Which it always fascinates me.
People are so creative.
Yeah, like when you watch how the guy, Bert something or other, the guy who did all the sound effects for Star Wars, insane how he came up with some of those sounds that are so iconic now. I'm like, this guy took a hair comb and is making like horror sounds with it.
It's so funny when I hear stuff like that too, because I'm like, you didn't need a $10 million budget.
No,
you're making sounds with hair combs.
Yeah, I know. That's so funny. So the open mouth gasping sound of the ghost was made by the director.
Best part.
Yep. So all that stuff was just him doing it. Yep. Okay, so Yuya Ozeki, Takako Fuji, and Takashi Matsuyama, the family, all did appear in Ju-on the Grudge. So I did. Yeah,
you said that.
I said that. I said I thought that, and I have it here. So that's probably why I thought that. I read it in research.
There you go.
So we're confirming that, yes, the families are the same in both movies. All right, so Jason Behr met Katie Strickland on the set of the film, and both began dating due to their interest in Japanese culture. You brought this up, I believe. Which is why they accepted the roles in the first place. Despite not showing any scenes together in the film, they eventually married 2 years later. Is this the movie you brought that up on? You brought it? No? Oh, okay.
I have no idea who you're even referencing.
I'm referring to the girl who plays the sister.
Okay.
And the guy who plays...
the blonde one.
The blonde sister, and the guy who plays the boyfriend.
Oh, yeah, I had no idea.
Set. Yeah.
You're thinking of Pitch Perfect.
Yes, you told me that about Pitch Perfect, yes.
Yeah.
It's different. Kind of similar in circumstance, though.
They're called showmances.
Yes, they are called showmances. Yeah.
I think they're quite common, actually, yes.
Yeah. They don't normally last, though, do they?
Well, I mean, it depends on... Like, Hugh Jackman met his wife on a show, and they've been married for, like, over 20 years.
Dang. Well, there you
go. But then there's some other ones, like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Didn't Tom Cruise have one, too?
I have no idea.
Girl. Yeah, I think Tom Cruise met some girl and they got married, and like they're definitely. I mean,
I think he's only been married to Nicole Kidman and Katie Holmes. Either way, they're both divorced.
Maybe I'm thinking of Nicole Kidman.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So a sequel, which becomes The Grudge 2, was greenlit on the Monday after it got released because it had such a surprise success the first weekend at the box office. It made over $39 million, and they were like not expecting that. They were like, "Oh man, okay." So a second one was never in the plans, which is why they were going to kill her at the end. But when they saw how big it went, they were like, all right, let's get the second one going.
Which is such classic Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. Of course, you can't just let anything be good by itself. The things we want to go longer, like Firefly, just don't go longer, you know? It's such a bummer. So due to American violence ratings and the commitment to a PG-13 rating, the off-screen implication that Takio repeatedly stabbed Kyoki. So the husband repeatedly stabbed the wife with a box cover was omitted from the film.
Right.
So there was a R-rated film, an R-rated version and a PG-13 version, and they screened both, and the PG-13 version played a lot better to the audience. So they cut out a lot of things like him stabbing her with the box cutter. There was a scene I told you they cut out which shows, so at one point we see the husband like hanging in the boy's room like he committed suicide. In the original version we actually see him getting pulled up by the wife's hair and being hung. Oh, that's a good... Whoa!
Jeez.
That was a big one.
Yeah, you should get away from the window.
Get away from that window. All right, so...
I knew as soon as I saw that light, I was like,
that was a big one.
Shoot.
That was a big one. Good ambiance for us talking about a horror film. You look a little creeped out
I got a little scared.
Ooh. All right, so moving forward here, the original Japanese film featured a subplot involving 3 schoolgirls like we talked about, which I kind of am bummed that they didn't show it in this one, but what's cool is they did it in the second one.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. The second one has the schoolgirls.
Yeah, so they gave you that little zombie schoolgirl thing. You just like it because of pom-pom. What is it? Zombie.
Pom-pom zombies.
Pom-pom zombies.
No, I feel like I remember the scene with the schoolgirl is that like it's kind of like one of those things where like they all are like, yeah, remember like this place is haunted. Like it's like you know, people in high school, like whatever, and then they're like, we dare you to like go up into the attic, and I'm like, this is much more like, I feel like realistic, quote unquote. Like this is something stupid high school kids do, you know?
I just got a notification. Severe thunderstorm warning. Thanks, notification. Yeah, I know. America loves to have their thing where it's like, no, you go in. Oh, what are you scared? Yeah. So here's a very interesting fact.
Yeah.
So the iconic scene of her crawling down the stairs. Yeah. We're almost done. So her crawling down the stairs. That she's actually bending and contorting her body that way because she's a what is that, contortionist.
Yeah.
So it wasn't digitally altered. That's actually her doing like all the weird
real.
stuff. Yeah. It's very creepy because it is like, it looks so creepy because it's real, not because it's CGI. So like I thought that was a super cool fact that she's actually a contortionist. So the infamous bedroom scene where Kayako attacks Susan from underneath the gap of her bed sheets was inspired by
there's going to be another big one.
Yep. Inspired by the old Japanese urban legend of the girl in the gaps, a ghost which is said to enter our world only through small gaps in the real world. So,
interesting.
Yeah, that's a fun nod to like another Japanese kind of not lore, but like urban legend kind of thing, you know. And an alternative ending, after Karen is recovered from burning down the home and wheeled into an ambulance, she has another vision of the dead family, seeing them entering their home with Toshio's new pet cat. Toshio then looks back at Karen in the ambulance before the rage monster calls for him. This ending was scrapped because it spoiled Karen's survival of the house fire for the audience. So originally,
that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, originally it wasn't going to end in the hospital like it did. It was going to end with her being like put in the ambulance and she was going to see the family and they were like, "Oh, we're cool now. We're going back in the house. You go do your thing." That makes no sense. Yeah, it was like it's super dumb.
They're like
Hollywood
trying to make
ending.
it happy,
Yeah,
but it's not happy.
Super dumb Hollywood ending. So that was my last fun fact.
Yeah.
We are gonna call this one a night because we got some thunder.
We gotta get
going
to
on,
safety.
And honestly, who knows if the power goes out at some point or something.
I mean, knock on wood, it hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet, but I hear it's a possibility. So we're gonna call this one, wrap it up right now since the thunder is starting to get real close to us. Go check out RakeMyPodcast.com. Go give us a rating or a review. Do all that fun stuff, and then tune in next week and hear what we got going on next week. Thanks, Madison, for being here.
Of course.
All right, we'll talk to y'all later.
Bye.
Wreck My Podcast. Wreck My Podcast.
I was in that house, I felt something was wrong. What happened there?